Hey everybody, my name is Justin, this is Gortman Made, and welcome to another video. So my wife and I decided we needed a little bit of a transformation for our front entryway, and so you'll see a little bit of what that transformation looked like, but I wanted to hop in here before I start the video and just kind of let you know that don't be overwhelmed by all the different tools that I have or the different tools that I use. You can use a hand saw instead of a miter saw. I'm sure you may or may not have a drill around somewhere, can get one for pretty cheap. The table saw is not a necessary tool. I only used my table saw because I bought boards that were wider because it was cheaper for me to break down the boards that way in my shop. But if you don't have something of that nature or a tool that works like that, all you have to do is just get boards that are already cut to width at Home Depot. We just use some pre-primed white pine that they sell at the Home Depot, and so it worked perfect for this project. So I just want to hop on here and say that. Don't get overwhelmed by not having certain tools or resources. Really, all you need is like a drill, a saw, some screws, some paint, some caulk, and just a couple different things that you'll see here throughout the video, and you can make this project happen for yourself on any wall in your house or anywhere in reality. So let's get right into it. So this is our old hall tree, and we decided this thing just had to go. The dog had beaten it up. It had been used for many years, so we decided it was time to move on. We decided to go with some pre-primed white pine for this project. Nice and easy to paint, and the size of these pieces will be depicted by the size of the area where you're putting it, so just use that as reference. Here I use the first board to get the size down for my second board. These are going to be the two vertical pieces, and then I cut down the next piece to the final width for the top shelf and the bottom support where the hooks will go. So I just take my brad nailer, I nail these two pieces together into an L shape, and then as you can see, this will be the top of the shelf, and that will go against the wall. Here I miter down the bottom corners that'll go near the floor, and I add some pocket holes to screw together this. You don't have to have the pocket holes or screw these together. You can simply just attach them to the wall on top of each other, and it should look just fine. And so here I'm lining them up. I measured the complete width of this part, and then I divide it by 3, and that gives me perfect spacing for the two vertical pieces. I find the center of each of the pieces, line them up on my marks, and screw it in place. And here's your finished product. So this will just be what you attach to the wall, and obviously you cannot escape a woodworking project without some sanding. So I did a little bit of sanding, I did some more sanding, and you guessed it, some more sanding, along with some more sanding. So after all my sanding was complete, I blew everything off to make sure I didn't carry up that dust inside, moved the old hall tree, swept up the area, and we were ready to get to work. So I brought in the structure, put it in place. It was nice and snug, so I had to hammer it in here, remove the light switches and our ring alarm system, and we were ready to go off to the races. And here you'll see me sanding the wall. I just decided to smooth out some rough spots before going around and painting everything later in the project. So I drilled some pilot holes for where I would be anchoring this top shelf to the wall, and then I went in with a countersink bit to make sure the screw heads sunk below the surface so I could fill that in with some putty later. I did the same thing for the vertical pieces as well. So here I'm screwing it in. I definitely hit the stud on a few of these, but I used some drywall screws as well just to make sure it was pretty well attached. These bottom vertical pieces won't be supporting any weight at all. Here's the dry decks that I used, so just some standard spackling, and I just went in and filled in those countersunk holes. Again, this is why it's important that the screw heads sink all the way into the surface, and use a countersink bit of some sort so that you can sand it flush just like this, and everything will be clean. I followed that up with some caulking. This is just a little handheld tube of caulk that you can use, and it's very easy to operate. And once you do all the edges, you can come in with a paper towel and wipe everything down. So once you get all the excess caulk cleaned off, you can now move on to painting, which is not my favorite part, but it really does help to transform the space for sure. So we decided to put some picture frames above our entryway here. So what I'm doing now is measuring the distance between the door and the window, and I'm measuring out for where those screws are going to go, using a level obviously to make sure the pictures are nice and even with one another. Screw in some screws for support and bring the pictures in. So on this next step for measuring out how to hang the hooks evenly spaced, you want to take the entire width of the section and divide it by one more than the number of hooks you have. That gave me 9 inches. So then I went down and made a mark every 9 inches down the length of the top. And the hooks we use for this are just some standard hooks that you can find at any local home center. Pick the ones you like best and have at it. And that's about all it takes, so let's take a look where we began. And now for the finished product. So we are really excited for how this turned out. I hope it encouraged you to maybe do something similar to this in your place, because it really changes everything to have a nice bright entryway when you first walk into the house. So if this video brought you any value, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing you so much more content in the near future, and we will see you in the next video.